So I only had one question from section 10, but it is a long question. 6 from question 10 was, how was the new Japanese constitution drafted? What were its characteristics? How could Japanese people still shape their government and society despite American power? What was Article 9? How did Japanese react to their new freedoms? Right, so remember, I'm looking at the slide that says the Constitution. And remember, under what circumstances was the Constitution drafted and accepted? Remember, the Japanese Diet was given several copies of the Constitution and was told to look at them, and that the Americans who drafted the Constitution, remember, as a group of young Americans in their 20s mostly, who drafted the Constitution, they were just given a couple weeks to do so. They gave it to the Diet and said, okay, here it is. We'll wait here while you look at it, and then we'll give you an answer. And we'll wait for your answer while we wait here for you. And so the small group of Americans writes this Constitution in a very short period of time. Remember, they were actually so pressed for time, they were running back and forth to different libraries trying to find copies of constitutions. And they give it to the Japanese Diet. The Diet has only a few hours to look at it. They come back, and they say, we're sorry to keep you waiting. And that's when this flight of B-29s flies overhead, just after one of the Americans said, it's okay, we didn't mind waiting, we were enjoying your atomic sunshine. So it's this very bizarre circumstance, right? The Americans do this very quickly. They pressure, perhaps even threaten, you could say, the Japanese into adopting this Constitution, and the Japanese government realizes that they have to accept this American written Constitution. So Japan is fascinating in this sense because they have a Constitution written for them by another country. Now, the thing is, though, this didn't stop the Constitution, which was adopted formally in 1947, from being popular. Many Japanese people will like it. One thing it does is it makes the emperor from a symbol of the state, remember, the emperor had originally been thought to be the state. He was the Japanese nation. He was the Japanese state. That's why it was okay, from the emperor's perspective, for lots of Japanese people to die to protect him. Now he's only the symbol of the state and unity of the people. So he's just an organ. He's just a part of the government rather than the whole state. Japanese people were also guaranteed minimum standards of wholesome and cultured living. Women became equal legally and got the right to vote. And the first Diet consisted of 10% women members. And what also is going to make this somewhat popular is the Japanese can still shape it. The Americans have to work through the Japanese. The Japanese protected by language barriers because not a lot of Americans know Japanese, so they can kind of do what they want and keep it hidden. And, of course, the Americans are committed to democracy and are committed to committing the Japanese to democracy. And, in fact, a lot of these things will become popular and will work very well as long as they're popular. So even though this Constitution is forced on the Japanese, it has a lot of stuff that a lot of Japanese people really like. One thing that's interesting is Article 9, which states that Japanese people forever renounce war as a sovereign right of the nation and the threat or use of force as a means of settling international disputes. Right? That is that is something that is popular among many Japanese people. The conservatives didn't like it, wanted to change it, but most people liked it. But there were also some surprises. Many Japanese people did not say, hey, this is great, let's become like American-style capitalists and let's have American-style democracy. Especially in economic issues, Japanese people looked left, many to socialism, and even some to communism. And there was even, they became so brazen, so kind of emboldened, that there was a call for a general strike, that Japanese people would just stop working in order to force the resignation of the conservative Prime Minister Yoshida Shigeru in 1947. And the American government in Japan, SCAP, is really freaked out by this and actually forbids the general strike, and it's called off, but Yoshida Shigeru's is still forced to resign anyway. So the Americans are kind of surprised. We wanted Japan to become a democracy, and darn it, the people want to kind of do their own thing.